Hey everyone, how are you doing?
Hi, everybody.
So there's a bit of a delay, a longer delay than normal. I think it's about half a minute, so we'll have to see. Le what? Yeah. That is well, we got to have our catisms uh within everything. From le oops to le what. Um but yeah, so today's week we decided we were kind of like, well, last week we were so pleasantly surprised by how Mistral Medium 3.1 ended up that we were like, let's give it a deep dive, see how far we can push it, see how good it really is if it was just these one tests, that kind of thing. Good morning, Mitchell, Vicky, Jean-Luc. Hi Joe. What drink do you have? Please make us jealous. Um so yeah, we thought, we'd give it a go, and even better, as Mistral worked so well with like the parameters that already existed, we sorry, we just thought we'd stick with them. I mean, I need some caffeine, it seems. So if y'all can send me that, that would be great. But Mistral is a really good model, and it's designed for science-based coding. Like, la what? It's not a model made for writing, and yet we found that it was surprisingly good. And I think that with a bit of pushing, you could really get some good quality prose for a reasonable price. And that's like the main thing, a reasonable price. Like some of the models I prefer, I know are really expensive and like can be out of a lot of people's price range. Where if you're doing like a full on book, and obviously I'm like testing things out for a stream, like it's very different. But if you're then going and writing a 150,000 word novel with multiple iterations and going through, costs do add up. Whereas Mistral Medium 3.1 seems to be this really good intermediary. So I think it's worth having a bit of an explore. Um, so
Yeah, I would,
yeah,
I,
we're
I
kind of
would, I
like,
would say scroll up a little bit to reveal the cost because I mean, to me, they're like very eye-opening,
oh yeah,
you know?
make sure our faces aren't covering it. Yeah, so Mistral Medium is cheaper than GPT 4.0 Mini.
Yeah.
Like that is incredible. I should probably add in. It's almost 10 times cheaper than Sonnet. Um, 3 times cheaper than GPT-5. It's really cheap. So I think it's worth. And that was input tokens. I was reading them. Not output. It's even better. Um, I think it's really worth giving this a shot. And like the time that you spend working out a prompt will be so worth it in the end. What have any of you guys been playing around with this model since? If Corey wants to go and find Gemini's things and read them out so I can add them in,
Sure.
I'll happily do that on John Luke's request. But yeah, have any of you guys been playing around with Mr. Medium? What do you think of it? Like, have you got any tips for the class? Yeah, yeah. And given that Opus is what I lean towards, I'm like, oh yeah, it's nice to have an option that's like not that expensive.
So
I'm
we'll
still
do
hoping
we'll
that
do
they'll lower the
we'll
cost.
we'll we'll do the cheaper tier for Gemini 2.5 Pro, which is under 200,000 tokens. So the input is $1.25 and the output is 10.
$1.25 and 10. So the same price as GPT-5.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's kind of like, again, for what you're getting, actually, Mr. Medium, you could do a lot of work on.
Right. I think, both Kate and I have been using like Gemini 2.5 Pro for chat for quite a while
Yeah.
because we like the feedback that we get. So, testing Mistral Medium under the same circumstances is really interesting, which, we'll
Yeah.
get over the course of this live stream.
Yeah. And for those of you, including Corey, who weren't there on Wednesday, we did a big like world building brainstorming session with Mistral Medium 3.5. Sorry, 3.1. um,
3-1, yeah.
with the monthly muse prompt. And it did really well. Like it gave some very well thought out kind of justifications, and I found it very easy to world build with it. Like it was very comfortable. It didn't have sudden quirks or anything that you had to then like counter. It felt a very natural model to partner with.
Yeah.
So I would definitely recommend it for brainstorming. Like you could easily get everything you need like in those first stages with Mistral. And depending on like time dependent, we've got some tests. Um, I've kind of kept things. I've included the text, so if we brush over some, you can go back in and look over the document and kind of like follow along yourself and make your own judgments. So we might. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. So we might not do every experiment, but we'll include the data from it all. So Fuzzy says that they tried it for their work codex, and while it did follow the format of the instructions, it went way overboard with the scope of the questions it was supposed to ask. It's supposed to ask one question per topic and cheated by doing 2 to 3 bullet points per question. Yeah, yeah, that might be something then that we'd have to work around the prompting with. We did find in its preliminary testing, I think when we did um the Mistral prompt, all of which are in last week's document. Yeah, we found that, like with GPT-5, it did try to do a bit more, and I think that's again because these models are trained for coding. In that context, you don't want an incomplete answer. You want it to be thorough and give all that, give you a complete response. And so it's kind of fighting a bit against its inherent purpose.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Um,
like for a coding model, you never give it a task and ask for, less than 300 characters or something like that. So I doubt that it's ever been fine-tuned in that regard. So it
yeah.
does have a very similar bias to like GPT-5 in that regard. So
Yeah. Yeah. So I think kind of it might be something you just need to kind of like hammer it over the head with the instruction, which is not necessarily great, or then do a follow up message of please distill this into one question, and not a
yeah.
question that has multiple parts. One question.
Yeah, one of my friends
Or
that
maybe
does
give
data extraction switched to GPT-5, and he ended up using uppercase a lot in the system message to get it to listen.
yeah, yeah, that doesn't surprise me. You could also try giving a reason for the why you only want one question, and that might help kind of like narrow it in so it understands a bit better. When trying for writing, it went a bit extra, adding runes but from a look, feel, logic, it was very solid. Yeah, I mean, again, that's why we had to kind of be like, you don't go beyond the stated world building. Like, use the stuff that we've given you. And I think when you've got final world building control, you just have to make sure that you're giving it enough to go from, so it doesn't feel the need to hallucinate. Yeah. So the first test I kind of thought, okay, this would be interesting to try. Was yeah. Yeah. So using the general purpose prompt, to see how well it writes in different genres. And by this, I mean how well it can infer from the beat text what the genre is and kind of match that. Because we found a lot of the models were very much picking up on the Dorian and Phyllis talking about the latest alien invasion while having afternoon tea. Very much picked on this fact this is a farcical kind of thing. It's not logical. It's just the and so I kind of wanted to see if it would do that in other genres. And so I've included the beats here, but so we've already seen this cozy one. But I think even then, I think the fact that it used emojis and did like the "I love London" um kind of thing, I was like immediately I was like, okay, this feels very in the genre. Um, abduct a cow, scare the locals, then bugger off before the RAF even gets its trousers on. It also feels very British, um, which I feel is important in terms of like, I mean, I guess Americans must have garden centers and stuff, but like the world building I had in mind was very British. So this was kind of, it felt very accurate to how I kind of envisioned this scene. Um, so I don't know how much we want to kind of go into this one, but like because we'd already talked about it, but it's if you read through it, it's got a very distinct voice, and I think when we go into the next ones, we want to see how it's compared, and what the differences are. If they like it aggressively British, yeah, that's the vibe I get from this cozy. It's a it's aggressively British, which is great for this particular style. And like I haven't given any genre entries,
Yep.
and
It
some of
does
these don't
know
even have
British.
these characters in.
It does know British English though, which is the setting for the, you
Yes,
know,
yeah, it
but
does know British
yeah,
English.
you're not prompting it for location or
No, and I'm not
so
prompting like I mean it says third person, but I'm not prompting with a particular character. It's just writing its own thing. So then I thought,
yeah.
okay, well let's try. Oh, sorry, yeah,
No, I was just going to say, one thing that really stands out, like you were saying, personality, it really seems to adopt a role even without necessarily having to tell it the
yes,
role. It adopts a very whimsical role for that initial prompt with like zero information except for the prompt, the
yeah.
beat.
So I was thinking from that, I was kind of like, okay, well, let's go like the next how cozy, and I was like, well, romances are kind of like naturally you could have something in a garden center. It feels like not too much of a jar. So then we were like, okay, so then I was like, okay, well, let's do a new beat. So Alice, brand new character, isn't in the codex at all. Is at work, brackets, in a garden center, when she spots Daniel for the first time. He is suave and dressed in a dark suit with glasses, a far cry from the normal clientele. So I'm kind of imagining here some, I don't know, like pseudo mob bossy kind of thing. God knows why he's buying a plant, but like this kind of completely out of place situation. It's a meet cute. I've not said anything, but this is the kind of stuff that I was looking for when writing this, and for the tone to be more serious than the cozy, but not like uber serious because it is also in a garden center. Like it's not like
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah, it's not corporate espionage or anything like that.
exactly. It's not corporate espionage with an inconvenient romance. um, So yeah, so the greenhouse humidity clung to Alice's skin as she stacked terracotta pots by the till. A drip from the overhead pipes splashed on her wrist, cool against the afternoon's stale warmth. Then the door chimed. Not the usual jangle of a customer in wellies, nor the hesitant push of someone hunting for compost. This was deliberate, measured. A man stepped inside, his polished shoes out of place on the gritty concrete. Dark suit, tailored, no bespoke, hugged his frame like it had been stitched onto him. Glasses, thin and wire rimmed, perched just so on a nose that looked like it belonged in a boardroom, not a garden centre. Alice's fingers stilled against the pot's rough edge. He didn't browse, didn't wander, just stood there, adjusting a cufflink, scanning the shelves with the precision of someone ticking off a mental inventory. His gaze flicked past the seed packets, the trowels, the gaudy wind chimes, then landed on her. Not a flicker of recognition, not a smile, just the slow, assessing look, like she was another item to be priced. And then, yeah, so it goes on. We've got a bit of banter between them. Um, okay, I like this. This one then, and whatever you'd recommend to keep it alive. Alice grabbed a spray bottle off the hook. 50 quid's worth of misting system, or you could just pay attention. Like, nice bit of sass. I feel like there is a character kind of emerging, especially given that we've not given it any context. It has no idea who Alice and Daniel are. I have no idea who Alice and Daniel are. I've just kind of made them feel opposing in the sense of one works in a garden center, one is in a bespoke suit. That's
Yeah.
the only information it has.
Yeah. And if this was like the opening scene of a romance, this is how it would go. There would be no hint of romance really. There would just be the introduction of two characters.
Yeah.
But obviously the pieces are in place here for something more coming up in subsequent scenes.
Yeah, and I feel like there is enough of a kind of like that spark of chemistry, kind of being
Yes.
like how
Yep.
she is kind of suddenly out of feeling out of sorts, even though she's in her domain, kind
Hmm.
of, I guess, gives that inkling that this isn't just, she has
Yep.
been affected by this interaction.
Yep. There could be
Um,
something deeper going forward. Yeah.
yeah. There is more flowery language, but given this is set in a garden center, that might be our fault. Um, it's got no text to like preamble or preset the style, which is what I would normally do, and which I have done in a later test. But I think this does have promise. And it definitely shows a different genre to the cozy we had just above. I think
Yeah.
we could all agree on that.
Yeah, and it's a very different tone to the alien invasion.
Yeah,
Um, you know, com this doesn't feel like a rom-com necessarily. I mean, obviously it could veer
could be.
into that direction, right? But it doesn't feel whimsical
Yeah.
at all. So
Yeah, I feel like if it'd been a rom-com, they would have, like, him walk in, and then she would spill something on him, and, like, his suit would get ruined, and then it'd be like, "Oh, I'll pay for your dry cleaning," or something like that. That kind of vibe would
yeah,
be, yeah, more a rom-com-y thing. So this feels very much like it's a little bit more intense. Which, yeah, I mean, given that I had absolutely no, expectations going into it, it's good.
honestly for me, the anthropic models have always had like a lot of personality. This is an example of a model that also has a lot of personality.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it gets into its role and like it gets stuck in. Which I think we'll see later when because I've done some tests with Drunk Claude and my god, it takes on a personality. Like it is good at that. So for the third one, I kind of wanted to go for thrillerish vibes, I guess, like detective thriller. I was like, okay, so we've got an agent. They're in the middle of pursuing a suspect through a garden center. I tried to keep this so that it wouldn't do an entire scene. Like I had some because I'm only asking for 400 words for these tests. I did have to redo this a couple of times to get a beat that didn't rush an entire interaction. Um because again, it did want to complete. But that's an issue with my prompting rather than the model. Um
Yeah,
so I basically kind of kept it they're in the middle of pursuing it's kind of like midway through that kind of helped curtail the long preambles and the actually catching and things like that. So the greenhouse air hung thick with damp earth and the sharp tang of fertilizer clinging to Jones's throat as he reeled between towering racks of potted ferns. His shoes skidded on wet flagstones, the soles protesting with every slick turn. Ahead, the suspect, no, the courier, ducked beneath a trellis draped in ivy, her dark coat snagging on the vines. She didn't look back, didn't need to. The message was all that mattered. Jones lunged, fingers brushing the fabric of her sleeve. A sharp twist and she was gone, vanishing behind a wall of bagged compost. He cursed, shoulder slamming into the display of ceramic gnomes. They toppled, shattering against concrete, their cheerful grins splintering into jagged teeth. Oi, you can't just. A gardener's shouts cut off as Jones vaulted a low fence, landing in a crouch beside a row of wheelbarrows. The courier was already halfway across the gravel lot, her boots kicking up dust. Sunlight glinted off the chain link perimeter, too high to scale, too slow to pick the lock. Then he saw it A side gate, slightly ajar, its padlock dangling like a broken promise. Jones sprinted, gravel biting through his trousers as he skidded to a halt. The gate groaned under his weight, metal screeching against rusted hinges. Beyond it, the courier's silhouette flickered between the skeletal branches of an orchid, her coat blending with the shadows of the winter bare apple trees. He didn't hesitate. The first shot cracked the air before he'd taken 3 steps. Not from him. The courier stumbled, her body jerking as the bullet found its mark. She went down, hard, knees hitting frozen earth. A second report echoed, this one distant, suppressed, professional. The trees swallowed the sound. Jones dropped behind a compost bin, heart hammering against his ribs. The courier wasn't moving. Too easy. He exhaled, slow and controlled. The message, that's all that mattered.
I mean, to me,
And
that feels like a thriller.
yeah, like that felt a lot more fast paced. Obviously, there was like, I think because it's set in a garden centre, there were some bits of humour, but I could imagine this very James Bondy
Yeah.
happening. And like, Mistral does use oi quite a bit. That is something I've noticed. I don't know if that's its impression of Brits or something else, but oi does come up quite a bit. Then again, I suppose we probably do say it quite a lot. But I thought, again, this is, even though we've not given it a genre, the beat itself has provided enough information for a tone change.
Yep. I think, words like suspect and coded message, pursuing,
Yeah,
they give that sort of, thriller vibe. Um,
yeah, definitely. Um, and yeah, I mean, I liked how it had just someone coming and shooting the messenger. I was like, oh, what's happening now? It made me intrigued, and I was like, I mean, I'm the one that wrote that beat, so I was intrigued to know more. So I was like, okay, this isn't bad. Um, yeah, I mean, it needs tidying up. There's definite bits that I'd be like, okay, I want to cut these, change that. But for a first draft, that regardless of what model I'm using, I would change the prompt, the output anyway. Like, even if I was using Opus, I would spend a good few hours editing it. Um, so I feel like this is actually really good as an output. And for a first experiment, okay, let's put our thoughts down. Um, great variety in genres, little prompting needed slash inferred a lot. Um, I think the prose was good and engaging.
mhm. Yeah.
Um, didn't make wild jumps. Like, it didn't make, like, in the sense of like it kept things kind of within the parameters of what we were doing, even the latest alien invasion. Like, um, yeah, the pacing was good. I think that's something that we
Hmm.
didn't see in the first two as much because of how it was, or like the romance especially. But yeah, the pacing was sped up when it needed to. Yeah, like I think when reading it, it felt very natural to read. Like, I mean, I stumbled a bit, but that's because I've never read this stuff before, so I'm reading blind. Um, but yeah, I think it has a lot of promise with this like pantsing. Is there anything else you want to add?
um, no, I think inherent in the first bullet point, I guess I could also like just sum it up is, it takes on a persona with very minimal information, which
I
to
think
me
that's,
is impressive.
yeah, and it's something that you want. You want it to take on the character of your writing and to kind of get that deep point of view, which I think is a good segue into the continuing prose. We did this so Corey and I did this when writing the prompts for the individual models when we did the test last week. So I'm not sure how much on stream we spoke about these, but I think kind of it was interesting for me if we go to like the gap, it's the can you read and it feel natural still? Like, was there a jarring moment? So I think we'll do that, kind of read it, just listen and kind of get an idea of what we think about that. Um, so hello? Her voice echoed back. No, no, this was wrong. Echoes were for caves. Echoes went. Red quickened her pace, clutching the basket closer. The only sound she could hear were her own footsteps and a car alarm. Um, the rustle of herbs jostling around in the basket. Even the trees were still. There was no breeze. Maybe going back to Granny's would be wise. Red shook her head. She was being silly. She wasn't a child anymore. She was 10. She'd been going to Granny's alone for 3 years, and she didn't want to admit that Granny might have been right about something so little. Everything was fine, only was that mist? Fine wisps of vapor edged towards her from between the trees, curling around her feet. The mist thickened, slithering up her legs like cold fingers. Red's breath hitched. She'd seen fog before, clinging to the river at dawn, soft and harmless, but this was different. It moved with her, coiling around her ankles as she stepped back. A twig snapped. She spun. The path behind her was gone, just trees, endless and silent, their gnarled roots twisting like knotted hands. The basket trembled in her grip. Who's there? No answer. Only the mist now swirling at her waist, dampening the red cloak until it clung to her skin. The air smelt wrong, metallic, like the butcher's block after a kill. Another crack. Closer. Red bolted. Branches ripped against her arms, but she didn't stop. The path had to be here somewhere. The cottage wasn't far. Father would be waiting. Father would. A shadow shifted ahead. Tall. Too tall. She skidded to a halt, heart hammering. The mist parted just enough to reveal a pair of eyes, pale, unblinking. Then the wind howled, and the trees screamed. Like, considering that I hand wrote or dictated the original prose in November, like, I feel that and that there was no AI involvement in the generation of that prose. I feel like the overall cadence and readability of it felt very natural. Like, I think if you didn't see the generated prose bit, you wouldn't immediately know where it had changed. There was definitely more metaphor,
Mhm.
um, kind of in the sense of like the slithering up her legs like cold fingers, um, and things, which I would cut out, but I do that anyway. I think kind of it feels like it's following on and it's kind of mimicked the style well. It doesn't sound like anything we read above. Um, yeah, Corey, what would you
I,
say?
I, yeah, I mean, to me, listening to you read it, I didn't detect that you were moving from one passage to another. It felt very natural, you
Yeah.
saying it. So, um, yeah, I mean, that's kind of what anybody is shooting for if, they want to like write in their style.
I remember the butcher's block. I still like the metaphor fits the yeah, I like that. The butcher's block, like I can imagine Red sneaking in like to get scraps of meat or something and like knowing what that smells like, especially because this is like a medieval village, like there ain't ventilation, like, you can probably smell the butcher's block from a few houses down.
And I mean, the heart hammering is something that we always see from
Mm,
AI, but this is fantasy and heart pounding, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't to me it doesn't feel out of place necessarily.
yeah. And also like it's a situation where her heart would be hammering.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it's kind of like it feels appropriate. It's not like her heart's hammering and like, she's going to the water cooler or something. Like it's it feels okay. Um I think likewise, I won't read all of these out, because again we went through it, but I think kind of the um there is again a mimicking of um the styles. Something I did notice was that it kind of needs to almost repeat the last sentence of the prose before. That happened in a couple of them.
Yep.
Just to kind of get into the swing of things. So it might be worth having an incomplete sentence at the end of your previous passage to kind of give it that push. Which again is a tiny consideration to make. You just delete the last half of a sentence or something of the previous words. Like, you're a gift. Delilah pushed off the wall, wobbling slightly. Maybe the Dukovic's brew had been stronger than she'd thought. Don't let them come to the party too late. Some of us have early shifts. Says the girl who kept us all up last month rewiring the Smiths' radio. That was different. That was important. Anna's laugh followed her up the stairs. The stairwell swallowed her footsteps as Delilah climbed. The music faded behind her, replaced with the familiar creaks of the building settling. Her fingers trailed the wall, finding the spots where the plaster had crumbled away, the rough edges sharp against her skin. Third floor landing. The Alvis door stood ajar, their fairy lights casting jagged shadows. Someone had propped a chair against the wall. Probably Saulo's lookout post. She nudged it aside with her boot, the wood scraping against concrete. Fourth floor. The air smelled different here, damp with the metallic tang of the pipe she'd been wrestling with earlier. Her cheek throbbed in time with her pulse, a dull reminder of the spanner's betrayal. So,
And
like, I feel like there is still maybe not quite as much of Delilah's attitude in this, but, like, a reminder of the spanner's betrayal. Absolutely. Like, there are
yeah,
bits that, and again, this is kind of like the wrapping up of the scene. Like, so it's not mid-action like the previous one is. So I think it's kind of hard to do a direct comparison in that sense. Um, but it does keep a good flow. And like if we look at the earlier sections where like at the beginning, I was using a lot of longer paragraphs, like short sentences within longer paragraphs. It's kind of is mimicking that style. It was just right before a big area of speech.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and once again, when you were reading it, it felt natural to me hearing you read it. It wasn't like you were reading somebody else's, random piece of
yeah.
prose.
And then finally the letters, Labradors, and leads. So this is like entirely AI generated, not edited at all. I just wanted like a cozier the cozy mystery thing. I mean, it ends up being a fight, but yeah. The only thing that frightens me is arrogant gits who think they can walk in and destroy our community, Archie growled. Sebastian tutted. Such hostility. I only wanted to help. We don't need your help. Archie took a step towards Sebastian, jabbing a finger at his chest. Why don't you take your fancy ideas and... What happened next was a blur. One moment, the two men were squaring off. The next, Archie's fist collided with Sebastian's jaw. Sebastian stumbled back with a cry. Before he could react, Archie landed another blow, this time catching Sebastian's eye. The crowd gasped, then erupted into chaos. Some cheered, others shouted in alarm. Maya lunged forward, grabbing Archie's arm mid-swing. Enough, she barked, her grip iron. This isn't helping anyone. Archie yanked free, chest heaving. He had it coming. Sebastian wiped blood from his split lip. His usual composure cracked. His eyes flicked to Maya, then the crowd, calculating. Assault. Lovely. And I feel here, actually, I don't like the prose as much, but I also don't like this prose as much because this is
Yeah.
like, I don't know, Sonnet 3, Sonnet 2.5. Like it's old. Um,
Yep.
and I can see that it's mimicked the bad practices,
Hmm.
especially the said alternatives, which I think is actually a really cool test because you can see it's not just its own style, it's mimicking the good and the bad.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, and I feel again there isn't a big juxtaposition between the two bits, which given how different that sample was to the two above and to all the stuff we were looking at before, I think it kind of does show that it's got a good mimicking potential.
Yeah, it really does. And to me, that was kind of the most surprising thing because for me, it's always been kind of the anthropic models that excelled at that
Yeah.
without prompting.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Um, so I think that's good with the pros. I've added here. I think we're gonna, because it's half past. I'll skip the detailed prompt. But I've included the pros already here. And what my intention with this scene was to show when giving it more information and a full codex. So, like, we've got Tiger, Gwen, all these things in the codex, and see how it did with that. I think I was asking for 1,500 words. I don't think it gave exactly that, but it also had information of like the scene before. It's writing in first person, which we've not seen above. So if you wanted to have a look and read that, I quite like the output. I thought um, it was better than Sonnet, which is what I'd been using prior to this.
Yeah.
So definitely worth a read, and maybe like share your thoughts as well, like in the comments or on Discord or whatever. I think it did a good job at that. Um, yeah.
Yeah, and
So
us adding that little stop writing here at the end of the beat did seem to help.
yeah, so it did continue on. I think was it Fuzzy Otter that was saying that it likes to kind of go on,
Yeah.
and like it very much did want to kind of continue writing the scene. It like actually sent her into the Pan project. So I added in this stop writing here, and it did a pretty good job once it had that. I think it just needs that little bit of extra guidance. I think also there's the issue of very much with AI writing of giving not enough stuff to happen for the amount of words you're requesting. So like you might be
Hmm.
like, write 3,000 words on this, but if it only feels it needs 1,000 words, it'll then, to try and give you what you want, it'll keep writing. Or you find you get lots of really fluffy prose and like really long paragraphs because it's trying to add into the word count. Um, and so like a word count is needed to kind of guide it, but sometimes it can then cause other issues. Um, but yeah, like Fuzzy Otter says, garbage in, garbage out, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that Mistral is a very good example of how important it is to edit your prior scenes, or at least like to remove anything you really don't want because it will pick it up. I remember it's been cut out now, but in a draft of something I was writing, Comic Sans identity bands got brought up about 7 times throughout the story. It kept coming back as this repeated joke that there were still questions about them and how to dispose of them properly, because they were like, well, what are we going to do with this 100,000 numbered batch of identity bracelets all in Comic Sans? Like, yeah. And they kept trying to destroy them in different ways, but they were like cockroaches in the apocalypse.
Mm.
So AI will compound on things you don't necessarily want in there. Okay, next we're gonna look at Drunk Claude, because Corey and I were playing around with this on Wednesday, and we were really surprised. We were shook. Um, so I'm gonna show you this like in Novelcrafter. So if I go hooked, I believe it was, yeah, this chat. Um, so I mean, first of all, second word is swearing. Um, oh yeah, it was an amazing side plot. Like I loved it. I will absolutely write a short story with it at some point. But yeah, it was kind of like one of those things where it really latched onto that detail. Um, so I think first of all, this just the personality. It's like, oh, okay, first off, let me just say this chapter is good, like actually good. The kind of good that makes me want to chain smoke cigarettes, but it's a British slang term that we don't necessarily use anymore, and drink more wine while I dissect it, because there's so much here that works, but also because I'm drunk and honest, there's some like shit that needs proper kicking. So let's get into it. Yeah. pour me another glass, and let's talk about Gwen Darling's day trip to the uncanny valley of tech billionaire charm and coma prisons. Like, yeah. It very much embraced the character. And this was also, I think I changed this. Yeah, so it's glasses of wine and moderately drunk. So not even wasted. Um, and I quite liked how, even though it kept the personality, it still organized everything nicely, which I
Yep.
kind of liked in this instant because it meant that I could enjoy the reading, but I didn't have to like search for my answers. Some
Yep.
people might disagree. It might be different for you, but this I enjoyed.
It also was never mean either.
Yeah, it was very encouraging.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like first, and I like how it as well. It didn't just give a one. Like I found with Claude, it would give me like a one genre, but this gave me like a very detailed genre, but also film and book comparisons to help kind of relate it, and that I really liked. Um, so corporate dystopian horror disguised as a sleek, seductive Texas expose. Think Black Mirror meets The Firm with a dash of Rebecca, because that effing house is haunted, not by ghosts, but by the spectre of unchecked capitalism, the kind of charm that makes you ignore red flags until you're waist deep in a mass grave. What kind of explanation is that? I love it, but it's absolutely bonkers. And I think like reading the other stuff that Mistral wrote, you wouldn't think it would then go into this. And I'm just like, okay, I kind of want to read this just for the lark. Um, but yeah, like so the aims of the scene, so to use Gwen and the reader with the allure of the Pan Project. Um, I like Barry James as the golden retriever of tech bros, handsome, articulate, just self-deprecating enough to seem human. He's the kind of guy that would offer you a glass of £500 whiskey while his lawyers bury a body in the garden. Um, to plant the seeds of undoubt, controlled unease, to escalate the stakes. That's all correct. So yeah, the genre is techno paranoia with gothic undertone. Um, and the purpose is to lull the reader into a false sense of security before yanking out the rug. It's working mostly. Um, yeah, I found that it very much went into the kind of veering into the not safe for work kind of language and depictors. For example, um, yeah, we're going to try Wizened Editor next. But yeah, Wizened Editor is your old professor, sipping tea surrounded by shelves of books, drunk Mistral as your buddy in a smoky pub, already hammered on the wine or beer. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, but the scene lingers on the demo like a bad Tinder date who won't stop talking about their crypto portfolio. Here's the issue. Um, so I like, and the thing is, Corey and I, when we were reading it, all the things it was saying kind of wrapped around its like comedy genius was really accurate and good. I'm like, if I applied all this to the chapter, I'm like, yes, this is all good advice that
Yeah.
would work.
Yeah.
In terms of the pacing, characterization, um, yeah, I
Especially as like you get to the end where it actually sums up twice.
yeah,
Um, it's very succinct, actually.
yeah. It is a bit analytical, but the way it gives its analysis is very in character.
Yeah.
Um, I I really like, yeah. So it goes through all these things, and then it's like other bits, the good and the bad, and the did you really just do that? Um, does it remind me of anything? AKA, are you ripping off Black Mirror? Um, so it gives us the advice. Final verdict gives us what's working, what's not, and what needs more wine, and then actually uses wine emojis. Final drunk rant, and then afterwards it's like TLDR for when you're sober and regret asking me. It gave 3 different summaries, and I was
Yeah.
like,
I
okay,
yeah,
sure. So it
I
definitely
stand
gets the
corrected.
character.
It's three.
Yeah. Um, but I yeah, I mean, given that it didn't have it like it had the summaries, but it didn't have like a huge amount of context, I found that all of these changes I would use. Um, let me I guess copy the conversation and plonk it in here. Um Oh, that was yeah. I mean, this was another one. And again, final thoughts. Okay, me ranting while drunk. Um, it gave a few different things. I don't think I did this in any other models, but I think I didn't have the character. I think like Claude had kind of like dimmed it down a bit, and then this came back and it was very refreshing.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm now going to go into a new chat. Um, I'm going to go on to Space, Wizened Editor, Mistral Medium. I'm going to give the context of chapter 4, I believe it is.
Hmm.
Um, can you help me analyze the scene or chapter, I guess? And then pacing, dialogue, character, purpose. And give. So obviously I'm giving more information, but that's because in the Drunk Claude we have like all the guidelines and things we wanted to analyze already in the prompt. Whereas this is a preset that kind of gives you a character and a general vibe. But I mean, immediately this opening, I mean, I've grabbed my cuppa as it said. So this, the lab demo scene, beat of 2 of internal resistance, that is brought up in the Drunk Lord. Oh yeah, it's hell of a fast. I can't really get much of my tea drunk in between.
It's not like
Um,
GPT-5.
yeah. Although GPT-5 is now available for everyone on OpenRouter.
Yeah,
So
without having OpenAI keys.
yeah, without having an OpenAI key already. I don't know if that makes it faster or not. I've not tried because, but it is available that way. Um, but yeah, the whole tone is very different. I like that the Barry uses Gwen early. Familiarity equals control. Um, although palpable. I think it does play very well. Like it's kind of got okay, yep, it's mentioning areas to deepen. Um I think it's a good it's very different, I think. Oh, I mean, oh my god, it's still going.
Hmm.
Um and also it does a lot of prose. So this was 3,500 words. I mean, this is probably going to be, oh, I love actionable tasks. 10 quick tweaks for immediate impact. Yeah, I mean, 2,500 words. It's um like I feel this version doesn't have quite the characterization that the Drunk Claude does, but it it gives a nice kind of balanced view. You can read it. There's no if you don't want like a strong personality in your analysis, this is a very good way of doing it. And
Yeah.
again, it's with Mistral. A lot of the advice is very similar, but not like verbatim. Um, there's obviously a little bit of issue with the markdown rendering, but we can forgive it that. Mistral does like to bold things, we've noticed actually.
Hmm.
Um want to limit word count if a And then I'm going to put this in quotation marks. It is also Helverfast. What thoughts do you have, Corey, on it?
To me, it has sort of the analysis capability of Gemini 2.5 Pro with the personality, even a better personality, I think, than Claude.
Yeah,
Which to me is very incredible given the model and
yeah,
especially the pricing of the model.
yeah, absolutely.
That
And then
that's to me why it was shocking.
um if I refresh this, yeah, so that was like 1 cent, and it was 5,500 input to 4,000 output. So it wasn't like, considering we got 2,500 words out of it, that's not expensive. So yeah, I think that's, I think a good sign that with your analysis, and that it would could I feel that it would be able to take on your characters well if you wanted to role play.
Yeah, if you wanted to
Mistral would
chat
be
with characters, yeah.
yeah, I think Mistral would be a good contender for that, and cheap. So if you wanted to flesh out a character or something like that, I think you could do that. Um, so in the last 10 minutes, I'm gonna have a little look see at how Mistral deals with a more complex prompt, like a multi-stage prompt. I'll do a TLDR. Show don't tell. It was able to make the 3 different categories fine, like the 3 different callouts. Scene summarization, absolutely use it. It's really good.
Mhm.
And because it's like cheaper than 4.0 mini, there is no reason not to use Mistral Medium for your summaries. Like the word count goes slightly over 80 words, but you could always lower the word count asked for to compensate for that. But yeah, so I'm going to go into the Ash Purge, which was the book that we were doing. We were like thinking about on Wednesday, concepting. I think I'm just going to add in just these things based on the name and just put them in the character, just as a to give a little bit of thingy, and then and I'm just giving I'll have this as like name meaning, and then grav. It wasn't Gravra, I think originally. Gravren. I think. Okay, so we've got in here some world building. I'm going to open a new chat. I'm going to go onto Mistral Medium. I'm going to give the context of the. Oh wait, sorry, no. I'm going to go into the. Where is it? Plotting, Snowflake method, step 1, Mistral Medium, and I'm going to select. Okay, I'm going to have to do this manually. Is it only? Oh, it's only let me add one. 1 moment. Oh, this is. Ignore me. Context. All entries. Let me go on the tweak and generate too. So that's adding in my brain dump, which I've not got. I've got the codex entries. all entries. So step one is the author will provide you their brain dump, their novel ideas, and from that you'll generate 5 high concept pitches for the novel. So we're gonna use the codex entries to help generate the pitches. And yeah, let's see how it does. I'm really curious. I've not tried this out at all.
There are the bold words.
Yeah, it's done the structure. So, but yeah, it does bold a lot. That is a um so Gravra, a reluctant medium with the veil, spends her days translating the dead's whispers for a village that both fears and depends on it until the sighing grows louder, a warning of a forgotten corpse buried in the caldera. When the Dunes reject a newly dead child and spit them back half mummified, the villagers accuse Gravra of hoarding secrets, for the body bears a name no one remembers. Now, to prove she isn't hiding the truth, she must descend into the caldera's heart during the ash purge, where the first death stirs, and the dead's voices might just tear her apart. Okay. Durek, a sickly boy with early signs of ash lung, survives by stealing sips of Weeping Crown's tears, unaware that the sacred water is laced with ash veil fungus. When he begins hearing voices, not of the dead, but of a living stranger trapped beneath the dunes, he realizes the crown's tears aren't mourning the first death, but feeding it. Now he must convince Gravra to help him poison the crown's pool before the next purge, or the first death will wake fully and the dunes will stop accepting anyone. Okay. I like how it's doing different because there's obviously only 2 characters here. It's not just having the same character as the
Hmm.
protagonist. Gravra has spent years resisting the Fire Tongue's attempts to rename her until the Purge reveals a modern rifle clutched in a mummy's hands, proving the dead aren't just ancestors but future victims. When the Fire Tongue declares the weapon a sign that Gravra must be reborn as the Ash Speaker, she's given a choice: embrace the role and control the dead's voices, or watch the village burn itself alive in a frenzy of whispered prophecies. Now she must either master the Veil's chaos or flee to the dunes where the first death waits to claim her true name. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I agree, John. Like, this is really cool. Um, a wave of veiled children begin speaking in unison, their voices not from the dead, but from something older, something that remembers the eruption. When Gravra realizes the children are repeating a countdown, she traces the source to the Weeping Crown, where the water's fungus is mutating into a new strain of the ash veil that spreads through breath, not spores. Now she must destroy the crown before the next purge, or the entire village will drown in their own lungs, coughing up the first death's final words. Durik was supposed to die young. His gut rot and ash lung marked him for the dunes, but when the Weeping Crown's tears cured him overnight, the villagers declare him chosen by the first death. When Gravra discovers his miracle is actually the work of a hidden faction using the crown's fungus to create living ashborn, as in, like, zombies, she must decide whether to expose the conspiracy and doom Durik, or help him fake his own funeral and escape the caldera. Now the only way to save him is to steal a name from the dead or risk the dunes spitting them both out. Okay. I think I'm going to go for the Fire Tongue's Gambit. So I'm going to go and change step 1 to step 2. Great. Let's go with idea 3, the Fire Tongue's Gambit. I think that interests me. I think that all of them were cool potential stories,
Hmm.
but I think that's the one that, especially with the, so for Corey's benefit and anyone who wasn't here on Wednesday, the stories, the there are cultural rules around names, and you adopt new names at certain, like, points in your life. So yeah. So now it should give okay, core conflict recap. 3 escalating disasters, 1 per act. Oh, I like how it's done themes, because that wasn't something I asked for in the prompt.
Hmm.
That is interesting. Um, so yeah, external disaster and antagonist manipulation, protagonist actions plus external disaster, antagonist ultimate gambit, and protagonist breaking point. Okay, it's really expanded on this. I think for this it's given. Okay, so this is given one disaster for each act, it seems. Um, okay. Let me just check what the. Okay, so this was 10 ideas for disasters. Oh yeah, Jurek is suffering. Um, so I'm gonna save this as a snippet, and I'm just gonna refresh, retry, see if it naturally does it itself. Um, okay, 10 potential disasters for your novel structure, organized with a impetus. So now let's see if it does 10. Um, I don't want to judge it all on. I do like how it's doing action and consequence.
Mhm.
I think that's pretty cool. I'm not sure if it's still doing. I feel like maybe it's still doing a sequential. Okay, yeah. Okay, so it's still doing disasters that are kind of fitting with one idea. So this is something then okay, so maybe there is a limitation with Mistral that we need to kind of work out with this prompt. Although it's saying pick one per act, so it's hard to know looking through it. What do you think, Corey?
Yeah, I mean, it's what it's providing you is a little bit different from other models, but um, the questions that it asks at the end, if someone were to answer those questions, I think the next round would, be even more focused. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, this is just using the base Snowflake prompt, right, with no
Yeah.
modifications for this model. So
Yeah, like I feel for this model I would need to rewrite this part of the prompt, which now makes me want to go and play around with the prompt. Like it doesn't seem to get the concept of we're brainstorming options. It's very more like, oh, let's go into this. I'm wanting to go in deep, which is fine, but it's just not quite what we're looking for. So I think that
yeah,
shows that there may be some limitations on Mistral Medium for like larger logic tasks. Because this is something that like Gemini 2.5 or like Sonnet Opus. I've not tried GPT-5, but I would assume that too don't have an issue with. Um, but yeah. Okay. So does anyone have any comments about this or any questions about what we've done today so far overall? And while we wait for that, I think Corey and I'll just wrap up our thoughts on what we think about um, stuff. Oh yeah, I mean AI mathing is ridiculous. It makes me feel good about my own math skills. I mean, I wasn't bad at math, but like it makes me feel good about it still. Um, yeah. So my thoughts are, um, there may be some limitations on like larger bits of logic, like or like if you're like towards an end of a novel. So that'd be something I'd have to test. But the prose generation itself is really good. It can mimic style well for the price. Um, like it punches above its weight. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely. So I think that it needs prompting, but I don't think it needs that much prompting in terms of like complicated behind the scenes things. I think it's more a you just need to use words like articulate it in full sentences, give it some bullet points. You don't need like any um extra prompting. And I think you can get something that is very actionable and would give you good outputs. Makes me really want to work on this prompt again. Yeah, John Luke says it was another good example of how good these models are getting no matter the size. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think like again, if we go back to here, um, what, 0.4 cents per million tokens. Like prices now are not per thousand tokens; it's per million. Like $2 for an output of this kind of makes me okay, guys. What do you feel about us doing a so in December we did a how cheap can we write with AI, and we used Gemini Flash 1.5 then. How do you guys feel about using Mistral 3.1 and maybe trying to do a novella or something? So because we did a short story last time, and we do a novella and see how cheaply we can write it. I say cheaply, like using AI, how much does it cost for an entire novella? It might take a couple of sessions, but I think it would be really interesting. And like we can like record the prices of everything and kind of keep things ticking. Um, like I would be interested in it. So I mean, yeah, what do you guys think? Would you be interested to see like how it would work on a larger scale project? Fuzzy says punches way above its weight for the price. I did some background scenes this week with 3.7 Claude, came at 25 cents a piece. This that makes me way more budget conscious. Yeah, I think kind of when you're paying that much more for something, it makes any dud output really hurt. Whereas for this, you're like when I saw that, I was like, I was fine refreshing and just seeing if it was a one off, like if it actually didn't understand the instruction or if it was just a one off hallucination.
Yeah.
Um, I think kind of, yeah, that price makes a difference. Let's um refresh again. Yeah, so I mean those messages that the one that I refreshed was half a cent and just over half a cent. Like that's nothing. It's like I'm perfectly happy with paying that to refresh and getting some really good ideas. So yeah. Um yeah, I'm thinking about doing the how cheap or like, how much can we like write and how cheap would it be to write a novella? Um
Yeah. I mean, especially since this model really mimics style so well.
yeah. My only issue would be with this is could I condense something into a novella length because that's kind of hard for me. I tend to I struggle keeping short stories short. So it'd be an interesting challenge, I think. Oh, amazing. Okay, well, if people are interested, then absolutely we can give this a bash. I mean, who knows? Some other random, while that's not happening, while we're waiting for new and fantastic things to come out, keep an eye on it. Um, yeah. Okay, amazing. Well, until Wednesday, not entirely sure what we'll be doing Wednesday. Might be something with Hooked. Again, maybe doing some kit bashing. Um, yeah, we'll have a think. Yeah. So yeah, that is bye from us. See you on Wednesday. Bye.
I